What is going on, YouTube? East Tactics here. Got another video I wanted to make real quick, and actually today I'm going to be bringing up a topic that I actually brought up 5 or 6 months ago, back when I was running some T-bone bumpers. And so here's a clip of that video, and basically what I'm showing here is well, the video itself talks a lot about how I really prefer the RPM bumpers over the T-bone bumpers, and if you want to watch the video to get like the full gamut as to the reason why, watch that. But in this specific section right here, I was basically showing you how the thickness level of the RPM bumper kind of sticks out, and it basically pushes the thickness of the bumper from being flat downward into the well here, and it sort of lends the strength of the thickness of the whole plastic so that it's less likely to rip out, right? Well, if you recall, hardcore nosedive, and what ended up happening was it hit so hard that it actually still ripped out of the bottom of the chassis, ripped that plastic, that extra level of toughness completely out. And so basically left on the screw up underneath here, if you look close, you can actually see the plastic is still kind of in there. So today, what I wanted to talk about doing was basically re-bringing to the table this idea of adding extra strength to your RPM bumpers. So the video that I dropped a couple of months ago talked about taking an actual shim, one of your diff shims, which I have right here's one, and actually placing them down right here before you drop your screw in. This was basically the recommendation that I made on the T-bone bumpers. And what's interesting is because these are so thin, they kind of just crunch inward, and it does create a little bit of a ripple effect on the outside of the shim, and then you just take a hammer and just sort of hammer it down. Switch to an image of what it looked like right here. So you can see it's not exactly pretty by any means, but you know, it did the job, and it lended a little bit of strength to my T-bone bumpers. But the T-bone bumpers are more flawed than just not having this extra level of thickness here. They're flat, and you know, but they also break along this seam right here really easy because they're not molded with a bend for strength. You can see based on that seam there that these were actually molded to the shape rather than heated and bent to that shape. So a big reason why you want to go with RPM bumpers if you're not rocking like the EXB bumper, which from what I can tell is pretty tank. Anyway, so what I've decided to do though was I want to implement this concept into the RPM bumpers. However, I decided to take it a step further and go even better than using one of these shims. I actually found a company online that sells a metal washer that is already got that countersunk attribute to it. And actually the name of these are called Tinnerman Washers, and the exact product number right here is a A3236-012-123, whatever. But I got it off of, and I'll just kind of clip over to the site that I got it from. And I searched high and low on Amazon to find something like this, and I did find something that looked similar, but based off the images, I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to be the right spec. So anyway, what's really awesome about these is they are way stronger than these washers, or than these shims. This is actually a little bit thicker, and it's made, it's I don't know, it's like a more of a hardened metal, so they're way stronger. Okay, so now I'm going to add an over-the-top level of strength to my RPM bumpers utilizing this strategy. So I picked up a new RPM bumper because this one obviously is hashed. If you look at this hole, and this hole, completely ripped out, right? So the only hole that survived is this one, and if you actually look closely, well, let me get the new one out. For whatever reason, RPM countersunk the hole a little bit deeper than than flush. The screws drop down far below flush with the bottom. So they've got a good level of straight edge here before you get to the angled countersunk part, which is fine, but these washers, they actually don't quite have that, the ability to, they sink down. Obviously they're countersunk quite a, you know, what you want, but they don't sink down quite enough. And so it leaves a little bit of a opening, an open space inside of here, which, you know, is not ideal. So what I decided to do to counter that was to actually keep the plastic pieces that ripped off and put those down. And so now when I put this thing on, not only does it still go all the way flush like I want, but now the spacer is just kind of filling that gap in there, which is great, right? So, you know, if your RC bumper, let's say, breaks in the same way, then I would say utilize, you know, this little plastic piece. So I've got the one here, and I've got basically the two up there in my vehicle. So I'll use those ones. However, on this third one, it didn't rip all the way out. So I don't really have this one to use unless I find a way to get it off. So my first thought to get this off, if I want to take advantage of the spacer, is to just grab an old screw that I don't really care about. Then I'm just going to come over here to my vise, and we're going to crank this thing in here. And see if I can just rip it off. There you go, just ripped it off. And so now I've got that little plastic piece that I want. Another thing though that you can do, if you find that kind of ripping off those pieces with a vise is just not something that you're capable of doing or have a desire to try to attempt to do, you can pick up, basically it's a kit of miscellaneous washers, and this specific M4 washer right here, it fits around your M4 nut like so, and you can just drop one of those in and it will conform to that and take up and fill up that gap. So you can utilize these in there instead of trying to pull that more perfectly fitting, you know, wedge from the actual RPM, the broken RPM piece, and just go with a little plastic washer. I'll throw a link in my master list for the Arrma Kraton V4 for this. I'll also toss it into the EXB list as well. Awesome. Like this. So now all I need to do is just take this thing off, stick it on here like so, and then when I push this thing into the new one, I'm taking advantage of filling up the space. I'm also taking advantage of this extremely durable washer, and that's gonna, seriously guys, these aren't gonna rip out like that. It's gonna take the force of a nosedive, and it's gonna force it to basically utilize this strength and the bend, which is really sturdy, but it's gonna force it to like protect your vehicle rather than rip out like it did in my case. And a hard enough nosedive, especially on concrete, is going to likely do what just happened to mine. But with these washers, there's no way that's gonna happen again. So let me go ahead and install these and show you what it looks like. Oh, and just a real quick FYI, I'm gonna be creating another video after this one that basically talks about the, it's gonna talk about the NTF fans, and basically the realization that I had, because I talked about in my previous video when it comes to NTF fans, if you do buy NTF fans, then if you break them or if they break, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to reapproach NTF and buy his fans, because he sort of sells it as a whole package deal, and it would be like, it would be just way overpriced. Where you can go on like AliExpress or eBay and pick up something to the equivalent. Well, I actually found some fans that are the same caliber, the same class, but they're a different brand. And my next video is going to show you not only how to convert it over to this, but also there's something really, really interesting that I found in these different brand that make them better than this particular model. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll even create a master link for where you can go to piece together all the parts that you're going to need for basically installing this type of a fan without going through NTF, and just kind of getting the parts yourself from like Amazon or eBay or wherever, and all the little things that you need. And that will be basically the next video. Will give you a breakdown of where to go and how to do it, and then how to convert these over to this. So anyway, next video. So yeah, these things are amazing, and they're gonna add exactly what you need to basically add that level of strength to the RPM bumper to prevent what happened to me from happening. So there's that little piece I was telling you about that I want to preserve to complement this tactic. Now with the vehicle sitting on its side, that's why I still left this one in there, so that when I remove this one, it doesn't, obviously my front end doesn't just fall off. I want to keep one in there at all times. I'm just trying not to bump it too much because I prefer not to make this thing shift. All right. Okay, so the tactic here for doing this is I'm going to put this one in now on the top. I'm going to put it right here. Then I can turn this like this to get this one out. There we go. All right, so that's basically the trick for kind of just doing it on its side so that you don't have to worry about the whole body or whatever, everything's shifting. Now, all four of these are in and I can tighten them. Now, let's take a close look at this. There you have it. And that actually looks super clean, unlike the tactic that I kind of showcased back in the day with the T-bone bumpers. This is just, you know, there's no folding or you know, defects in the fleshness. It's just solid. So basically that's what I wanted to show you guys today. Now the question is, do you feel like that's needed in the rear end? And I mean, I ordered like 12 of these little washers, and so I definitely have enough to do it, and so I probably will, just in case I have a really gnarly landing on my rear end. However, I will say that the likelihood of you coming down on your rear end hard enough to break through the already built-in strength of the RPM bumper is pretty unlikely, because you've got all this right here that's actually going to absorb the majority of the blow, and you know, you might end up breaking, if you land really bad, you might end up breaking your wing mounts or, you know, your wheelie bar or whatever. I do have another video that talks about how this wheelie bar though massively protects your wing mounts from breaking. It absorbs the leverage of the blow when you land on the ground on the edges of these wings, which then transfers all the power and twists these and breaks them. With this thing here, it makes it to where when landing on your rear end, it it kind of disperses the impact to the wheelie bar, and in essence lessens the amount of tweak that you get on the wing mount itself. So highly recommend the wheelie bar. Now, with that said, I think I've pretty much just talked myself into the fact that I'm not going to worry about putting those washers on the rear end. However, if down the road I do end up landing hard enough and I rip out the, you know, the plastic countersunk portions of the RPM bumper, then I'll resort to these amazing little washers. So anyway, guys, that's kind of the gist of this tactic. Stay tuned for my video going into in-depth detail as to the difference between this brand of fan and this brand of fan, as well as how to kind of piece together your own high-end 3S powered fan system to save yourself a little bit of money. So, and I'll actually finally put to rest the amount of money it's going to cost if you do a DIY on these, where you've got to basically purchase the screws, you got to purchase the, you know, the cover, you've got to purchase, if you want to have this like clean looking braid on your wire, if you want to have these, you know, then you got to pick up some of these, assuming you don't already have some. So like I said, I went with NTF first, so now I've already got all the little components that I need to attach this. But the video is gonna break down just basically where exactly you can go to get all these little miscellaneous parts, and then does it end up costing a lot less than just going with NTF, or is it still recommended to just, you know, buy your initial setup from a company like NTF, and then after you potentially break them, you don't have to buy all those miscellaneous pieces. You can just jump on, you know, AliExpress or eBay and pick up these fans. However, based on what I'm going to tell you about the difference in the quality of these, there's a specific attribute that I want to point out. It'll probably either convince you not to go with NTF at all, or it'll convince NTF to stop using this brand himself and go with a different one. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, once again, thanks for watching my videos. As always, all of my videos have a link in the description for miscellaneous parts for the Arrma Kraton and other vehicles in the same caliber, like the Outcast, the NOTORIOUS, Talion, things like that that utilize a lot of the same parts, as well as a parts list for the EXB. If you guys are running the EXB and you just want a quick and easy access to miscellaneous parts for the EXB, and then of course all of the different miscellaneous random tactics that I bring up, those parts are always going to be in my description, so just kind of check out any of my videos for that. And I always appreciate it when you guys use the links in my description, because it's an affiliate link and it helps to support my channel. And I always really appreciate that. Another way to support my channel, if you want to hit me up on Patreon, send a little bit of love my way. I'm always super grateful for that. The people that are supporting me on Patreon, you know, we communicate a lot through the platform itself, and I can answer your questions there if you've got them, you know, sometimes a lot faster than I can when it comes to when you leave a comment in the description. But if you want to leave a comment, or if you ever have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always eager and excited to help you guys out when it comes to just, you know, beefing up these RC vehicles, as well as just, you know, bantering about the hobby, because this is definitely one of the funnest hobbies that I've ever been involved with. And a lot of it, though, has to do with the community and the people that just support me, and it's nice to kind of be there for people whenever they have questions. So anyway, guys, East Tactics out. I just want to give a shout out to, you know, the time of year with Thanksgiving and all, and ultimately just want to give thanks to really everybody that supported my channel, everybody that's followed me and, you know, asked questions and, you know, just contributed to quality banter over the last year as I've kind of launched my RC channel, and you've really made it worthwhile for me. There are a couple of people that I do want to shout out to that have really influenced me and also been there along the ride with me. So big thanks out to Three Sons RC. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, it's a great channel, family friendly. This dude knows how to make a quality build, completely understands M2C parts up and down, and always implements the best. So shout out to you, man. Thank you so much for the different times that you've shouted me out in your videos. It always means a lot to me, man. Another guy that I like to shout out to is Hardcore RC. I really appreciate your content. Really just down-to-earth guy. We've chatted quite a bit in the message boards, and both of us have a good understanding of, you know, the industry, and he's just another really good guy to follow. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, check it out. Naturally, I want to give a big thanks out to, you know, quality creators, the ones that basically I landed on. As soon as I searched high-end RC on the internet when I first decided to get into the hobby, I fell smack dab onto Rich Duperbash's page, and if it wasn't for that guy, seeing the way that he just basically sends it, and the way that he, you know, showcases the real quality of these vehicles, he's definitely a veteran in the industry, and a big part of the reason why I got into it. So I wanted to do a shout out and say thank you, brother. Really appreciate you. Another big guy that I've followed right early on that really took hold of me and influenced me quite a bit was RC Dude 81. Everybody knows this guy, and between what him and Rich Duperbash do with these vehicles, with their collaborations with third-party, you know, creators like M2C, really they've made a big change and a big impact on this industry. So shout out to you too, RC Dude. Really appreciate you, and you always are quick to answer any questions I ever have. So thanks a lot. Anyway, guys, I just want to give a shout out. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. East Tactics, out.